So one of the things I like to try to do is to reduce power consumption and reduce the amount of heat that my VICs produce. So the first thing obviously is replacing the linear regulator, the LM323. So this is a PSU5 no noise from EZSBC or EZSBC.com. That's the first thing. Another thing is you've got the bridge rectifier here, which takes the 9 volts AC in, rectifies it to 9 volts DC, and then we've got the smoothing capacity here before feeding it into the 5 volt regulator. So if you're only feeding in DC, say you don't have an original power supply and you're using a 9 volt DC plug pack, then there's no point rectifying it. It's already DC. Even if you're putting in DC, you still get a lot of heat generated in this rectifier. So I've been putting in a little bypass 2.1mm plug, and on these older, see this is a VC20, on these older boards there's 2 holes right here. I think that one's ground and that one is the positive rail, so there'll be plus 9 volts coming out of the rectifier. So I just scoop the solder out of that, and they're quite big actually, so you can put in a decent sized wire. So I scoop that out and then I can just wire it up to there. So that'll be the next step. Okay, sometimes the easiest way to use the desoldering gun is, can I do this, is to reflow some new solder on. There we go. Done. So that's now ready for my cables. So these are the sockets I've been using from Element 14/Farnell, although I'm a bit worried now. Is that half an amp, 500 milliamps they're rated for? I might have to get some others, because it draws about 900 milliamps. Anyway, so I have been, probably can't really see it on this side. Yeah, take that out. So I need to drill a hole in this first. I'll either stick it there or stick it there. You don't need the on-off switch because you're when you're supplying the DC directly. So I think I might stick it there on that side. I might do that. Okay, so that's about where I'm going to drill the hole, right there. 7.5mm, probably 8mm, it'll be an easy fit, but 7.5mm is a nice tight fit. Squeeze it in, and there's the result. Not too shabby. Got to be careful. So this is, I guess this is the PAL type AC, whereas the NTSC ones are open. You know, you can use the figure 8 cables on that. Those figure 8 cables actually take up more space on the back here, so you can't. You've got to be careful if you're going to stick your socket here. These ones are okay because they don't take up much space, but the I don't have one handy, but they do take up a lot more space. So you can actually find that if you put it too close, you stick this too close, like there. Focus. So if you stick it there, you actually have, I did that not realizing. I actually had to chop off the plastic. It was not a big deal, but I had to do that because these ones, you know, you've got to desolder them, whereas the whereas the NTSC ones you don't need to desolder because they sit on the board, hence the holes there. Anyway, so that's my hole. So I will stick this in here, like so. Stick that on the back, and then solder some wires up. Okay, I'm all set to go. So this is 7.5 amp cable, which is well well more than I need, way more than I need, but it fits nicely. So I'll stick these ends in here, then a bit of heat shrink, and then solder them onto there. Job done. Okay, I've got the cables soldered on. I double checked, there is continuity between there and the ground on the regulator, and between the positive output and the voltage input there. You will notice initially, say if you do, I think if you do positive to ground, you will initially get continuity, but because of this. But then slowly the resistance will increase as the capacitor charges. So alright, I've got that in there. I've got the heat shrink on now, because it's the 2020s and not the 1980s. I'm going to have center positive, outside is negative. So that's the center. So we'll have positive to that. We'll have negative to the outside, like that. And there we go. So the drawback is that you have no 9 volts on the user port or on the cassette. So if you want to use the data set, you have to use that. You could probably, if you wanted to be fancy, try and hook this into over there as well, but I guess you'd need a switch, because otherwise if you're using the AC, I think it'll be too risky. Easier is just to have, you want DC, no data set, you're using an SDIEC or something, then you can just do that, save yourself a lot of power, a lot of heat. Otherwise, if you want to use the data set, then you just use this. Yeah. So the final thing is the bridge rectifier. Still want to put the heatsink on, it just goes on like that. And all done. So I've got a few more things to do on this one. Obviously before you put the heatsink on there, you need to put the cartridge one back on. But I've just noticed, because this is a VC20, the timer capacitor has already been replaced on this one, so that apparently is a common issue. It's supposed to be 1 microfarad, but if it goes out of tolerance, like the last one I had was 2 microfarad, it can take a while to actually power on. So I just got this one, and it looks like this has actually been replaced. You can see this is, normally they're yellow. So, but this one's definitely been replaced. It's got fresh solder on it, so someone knew what they were doing. But this one's still got a bit of work to do. I'd like to replace all the electrolytics, replace all the sockets, socket UB9, replace the big smoothing capacitor, and then I'll be able to verify it all works. But that's basically how I've been doing my DC. One of my other videos I've got a demonstration, but I think I've got it under 900 amps, 900 milliamps, definitely under an amp, bypassing this and using a modern switching regulator. Anyway, I hope that was of some use. Goodbye for now. One final video just showing the rectifier heatsink back on. So I think it looks pretty neat. So obviously the on-off switch doesn't do anything now because we're bypassing that totally. There we go. One final thing. So you can see here I've done another respray. I think it turned out okay. But yeah, you've got to be very careful when positioning. You can see there, I've got just missed it. So if this was any higher, the case wouldn't close properly, you'd have to file this out a bit, which is what I've had to do on my Japanese Vic 1001. I put this a little bit too high, so even there I can just get my fingernail in, so I probably could have dropped this down a bit more. You see there's still plenty of space there, but once the case goes on, so you just need to bear that in mind as well. I'm really liking these Black Vics. I really like them. Anyway, that's the final one. Good night for now.